Can you hear me in the back? Good. Well, first I'd like to thank Jim for giving me the opportunity. It is always great to be with fellow project managers. Before we start, let me just ask you a question. Let me see hands. Those who would like to enjoy a successful career, make enough money, retire early, and do whatever you want to do. Oh. So I'm taking it a step further than the title, not just getting promoted, but retiring early. So that is the subject today. Because I saw in the agenda, you have about 35 sessions talking about all the technical side and project management and others. So you will have 30 of that. So let's just take the next hour to talk about how we can do that. So this is what I do for the last 20 years. First picture is the golf cart. In fact, if I was in Memphis, I'll be on the golf course. I play Monday and Wednesday with 2 golf leagues. Then the middle picture is the Birla clan. We've been going before COVID for about 7 years on a Disney cruise. And then the last picture is nature. That's one of the benefits of living in this country is just state parks all over the country. And so this picture is Canadian Rockies. We were 5-6 couples. We were out there about 7-8 years ago. Banff, if you haven't been there, the Fairmont Hotel. So we are having lunch on the patio in the hotel and look out. And this is one of the best view. I mean, I've been all over the world with FedEx in there. So the other thing which Jim kind of alluded, I enjoy doing is I enjoy sharing thoughts and with business groups, like yourself and others. So the picture at the bottom is at Bridgestone headquarters in Nashville. I got a call about 6 years ago that Bridgestone is #1 in the tire. But the president said, we need to start an innovation group. So I got a call to kick off their innovation team, how to lead for innovation and growth. And then the last picture on the right is I was talking with Erica, City of Garland. Last month, I was asked by the town of Collierville, where I live, suburb of Memphis. Memphis is the headquarters for FedEx, that's where I was. So I did a 2-hour session with all the city directors, police chief and fire chief and all the other there on how do you prepare for the growth the town is going on leadership. So that's my joy. So this is, in fact, my big talk after the COVID. So really just enjoy being here with you. So after I left FedEx 20 years ago, after 22 years there, I was doing a lot of speaking in Silicon Valley in the .com days. And the question would come up, Madan, you work with Fred Smith. He's the founder of FedEx and the chairman, and I'll share with you later. So how did he build such a great company? So I came back to Memphis and I said, we were doing something great. I joined FedEx in '79, but they were a little company, and now it was less than $1 billion when I joined. Now they're a $100 billion company in 212 countries, about 500,000 employees all over the world. So I said we were doing something right for us to grow. So I wrote a book called FedEx Delivers, that first book, and just based on my experience and my years at that time, what was it in the early days which made this company successful? And the book has now come out in Chinese, Russian, Spanish, Korean, Thai, Vietnamese, Arabic, about 10 languages. So that's my joy. I speak at business schools around the world when wife and I travel on vacation. Then, as I mentioned, my interest is nature. So the publisher asked me to write another book. So I wrote this Unleashing Creative Innovation, 9 Lessons from Nature. So sort of and the last book came about. Microsoft invited me in Bangalore, India, to talk to their project managers, and the issue was that we hired these guys from IIT and other schools, and they are burning out. So it's enjoy, balance, and unleash creativity. Anyway, so how many of you? I want to make sure the time, since I talking for joy now, I can continue. And you have to take a break and other things to do. How many of you heard the word LP?
LP, of course.
Okay, some of my peers or older folks. LP stands for long playing vinyl records. You know those round discs, black vinyl. The music before iPhone and other, it used to come on physical product. So my first job, I did a bachelor's in mechanical engineering in India. Then I came to IIT Chicago, Illinois Tech, did my master's in industrial engineering, and RCA hired me, RCA Manufacturing in Indianapolis, making, in fact, my first job was making Elvis Presley records. Some of you may have heard of this guy. So, so what I'm going to do is, so everything I'm going to share with you is based on my personal experience. If I look at my career over 30 years at FedEx and RCA, it's all projects. That's what I did, whether I was a project engineer or became a manager or a senior manager or managing director. And so I picked out on my professional journey 3 projects, which were the catalyst to get me the promotion to the next level. So what I want you to pay attention, not so much that, about the RCA business or FedEx business, but 3 lessons I learned. That were the key to help me get to where I am, where I am playing golf and doing this thing. So that's what I want to share with you, and hopefully you will get something out of it. So this was in 70s, mid 70s, and many computers were coming along. It was mainframe when I went to school at IIT. So a consultant came to RCA. Before that, let me just kind of, some people who raised their hand on LP. Do you remember what a record club was? Okay. All right. So in those days, whenever a kid got a stereo system for birthday, for them to build their collection of music, so there were 2 companies in music business, RCA and Columbia Records, RCA Records. And you would get for 1 penny, 8 records or 8 cassettes, and that's how. And then you just had to commit to buying 8 more during the next year at the regular price. So that was the system. And every month you would get a catalog to select. If you didn't select anything, then it's called negative option. They will ship you the selection of the month. And you picked out whether you were in the rock and roll genre or you are in easy listening or country western or, whichever you choose, one of the 5 clubs, and you'll get that. So this consultant came. So I'm part of the corporate engineering staff at RCA, and RCA Music Service was the division running the records and tape club. So he came and he said, today, I'm gonna, where is Erica? Okay, so if she ordered Elvis Presley, Dolly Parton, Beatles, guess who, whatever, those old artists, not Taylor Swift, So my kids, that's where they want to go to the concert. So you would print a order, a paper, and a warehouse worker would walk in the warehouse and pick out those 8 records manually and put it in a box and pack it and ship it by postal service. So he said, I can automate this whole system. So I need to be, yeah, I can see the part. So he said I would take a tote box, a tray, and put it on a conveyor and assign Erica's name on it, and it will travel. And every inch I'm counting where it is. When it got in front of the Elvis bin, the record on both sides were bins holding record, tape, and cassette. It will just automatically drop. So it will pick out automatically. When it comes out at the end, it will go into a packing machine, pack automatically. So you eliminate, all the labor savings, and it is a faster process. So the VP of the division said, sound interesting. So he requested some engineer to validate the concept that, what this consultant is selling is going to work. So I was assigned to that project. And for 6 months, I was traveling to Stamford, Connecticut. That's where the consultant was. And the proof of concept, they built a prototype in their warehouse and they showed a demonstration and it worked. So my job was the concept works and it's there, technology in there. So then they go to the finance corporate staff in New York to get approval. And every corporation has their internal rate of return, a threshold, that any capital project needs to make 15%, 20%, whatever their internal rate is. And until you meet the threshold, you don't get the money approved. So, excuse me, this project did not meet that, so they did not get the money. My job was done, and I'm back into doing another project. But I'm sitting in my cubicle, and I said, maybe there is something. So in music industry, I don't know if they still have it now since I'm out of it, used to be a Billboard magazine, and Billboard Top 40. They would say these are the top 40 selling records, or CDs, or at this time. And most radio stations play those top 40 stations. That's what they play. So I asked the IT department. I said, give me the history of the last 12 months order. What are these people ordering? Because I had in the back of my mind this thing called, how many of you heard Pareto principle? Okay, most of you. So I had just, so when I looked at the history, that's what it showed. I was telling Eric, I landed here yesterday and the sinus kicked in. So I'm losing my voice. So I looked at there that 80-20, 20% of the selections, which is top 40. So there used to be 400, as I mentioned in the catalog, and 20% of the selection, 80% of the order, because kids are ordering whatever the popular thing is right now. So I went back to Dale and I said, Dale, what if, we built a system, because the cost was, because, you built 400 and all the warehouse space, and just with 80, and it reduces the cost, increases the ROI. And he loved the idea. We went back to New York, presented to his boss, and the project was approved. So the lesson was that, and then he called me 2 weeks later, and he says, Madan, I've created a position in my department as a manager of distribution systems, and I want you to move into it. So the lesson was there that we all do our jobs, what they ask us to do, the project and there, but what gets it ahead is initiative, doing things without being told. I didn't have to do that. My job was done, engineering works and there. So that was moving from the engineering side project to moving into management. The second project, so then a little company, FedEx, headhunter approached me in 70s and said, they're starting a company in Memphis. They need somebody like you in managing all the internal logistics, all the material required to run FedEx, all the uniform packaging, spare part for the plane, for the hub, So wife and I moved there in '79. Excuse me. So at that time, if you wanted to ship a package with FedEx, you needed a thing called Airway Bill, a 5-part where you fill out from your address and there to where you're sending it to, and then you check a box what kind of service you want, and then the agent, where you are sending your package to the, she will give you a copy. You get the pink copy. Blue goes to billing. White stays there. So FedEx was growing, 20% a year. It was at that time, and marketing was introducing new products every couple of months. These are overnight or a career pack or overnight letter, or so every time you change the product mix, so you have to change the Airway Bill because there is a box on there what service you want, and they were throwing out these Airway Bills, $80,000 to $100,000 every time. And I said, why are we throwing these Airway Bill out? Why can't we have just-in-time inventory management like I was doing at RCA? They said, but then you don't understand FedEx. We don't know what we'll be doing next month. We are growing so fast. So they really didn't care. They're making a lot of money. So I said, I don't understand, but I still like to educate me. So I got the 5 departments involved in there, the procurement, the planning, the vendors. So I asked, so the 2 things that drive inventories in any business is the lead time, how long it takes by the time you place the order to receive the product. And second is the variability of the demand, how much safety stock you keep. So the key problem was that the vendor said it take me 8 weeks by the time I get the order to print those Airway Bills. They said, why does it take you 8 weeks? You can print it, in 2 days. He said, no, Mr. Birla, it takes me 6 weeks to get the paper, colored paper from the paper mill, because I only get 1 order at a time. When I get the order, just when I order the paper. So I asked the planning and the purchasing guy, I said, what if, we give a larger time frame order, whether we are going to ship 10 million, 20 million packages, let's pick 15 number, we are growing. And we ask this vendor to get the paper, keep it in his warehouse, not print it, but print it every 2 weeks when we tell him what we need. Simple idea. And I said, yeah. So we had 3 vendors and we gave them and they got the paper produced. So because business, marketing still wanted to keep changing product mix in there. So that was just one project when I got there, and others like that. So when we saved the money, of course, the controller, heard about it, and the company was growing. So the department, they created a managing director position on material resource planning from 6 people to 36 at that time. And he was on the panel, Jack Roberts. So he remembered that, Dan had that idea. So the point is that, so we are all doing projects, but thinking about, because most of the assumptions in the companies, and I have time, I'll share with you the chairman. So all these processes were designed 5, 10 years ago when it was a different world, different technology there. And people who are there, they just kind of assume, well, that's how we do. So you have an opportunity if you step out, in from outside or a different area, is why are we doing it this way? And just simple, I have another slide. If you look at Apple or IBM or Facebook, I mean, these were just simple ideas put together, became what they are. So the third project I picked is, so I am managing director of material resource planning, and I've been in the job 10 years. And it is running on an autopilot and high service levels and whatever. So I come one morning to the office and I read a 2-page letter from the chairman and the chief operating officer. And that letter was about, so in 1988, FedEx acquired a company called Flying Tiger Airline to go international. So in an airline, you don't buy an airplane and say, I'm going to land it at Heathrow Airport. I'm going to go to Japan. No, there are no landing slots available anywhere in the world. All the airports are fully booked. So it would have taken FedEx 5 to 10 years to build a network. So Flying Tiger was an airline, great airline in LA. So we bought that. So the senior officer who were in charge of this whole planning process left the company, whether he left or let go. So the chairman wrote a 2-page memo and I read it. I went to my boss, Ken. I said, Ken, did you read that memo from Fred this morning? He said, yeah, I read it. I gave it to Pam, his secretary outside the door. I said, I want you to read it. Excuse me. Read it again. So he said, Pam, have you filed that memo? I don't know why Madan wanted me to read that memo again. He said, no, sir, I haven't filed it. So he brings it in, and I'm sitting across the table from him. And he said, okay, I read it. I said, do you ever recall when any senior officer left in the company, chairman writing a 2-page memo? Usually we get a 2-line email, we appreciate Mike's contribution and wish him all the best, And I said, why he wrote this memo? Because he was unhappy with the integration process, how we integrated Flying Tiger into FedEx and the whole planning process. So I said, in addition to that officer leaving, they should have fired you also. I mean, that's the relationship I built with my boss, I could tell him. Wow. Because you are one of the 5 VPs, part of that whole process. When you thought about it, he said, so what should we do? He said, well, somebody needs to look at that whole process. Because he laid out clearly what his expectations were. The chairman laid out that it takes you guys too long. By the time you come up with this long-range planning process, plan for the company, so forecast has changed. So you guys need to come up with a faster way. And then some other assumptions you always make when you're looking at the future. So he said, would you mind looking at it? And that's what I wanted. I just was interested in learning something more. So here I'm in the support function of logistics, and this is the main function, how the company planned and runs. So I said, but before I do that, here is a memo from you to the other 4 VPs telling me that I have assigned Madan to spearhead this project and assign someone from your staff. So anyway, for 3 months, I ran a weekly meeting, just charting out the process. There is a forecast for marketing, 5 million packages, and then operations research looks at it and said, okay, take that forecast, explode it into 500 by 500 matrix. How many pack from Chicago to New York? London, Mumbai. And then airline scheduling said, okay, we need so many airplanes, and then it goes to a department, how many hubs we need to build, what size the airport at Dallas Fort Worth or Lines. So I just asked the question. I said, I don't know anything. Just help me walk through it, process. And the second thing put on that process chart is how long it takes your department to do your part. And we put down. And to make a long story short, so the basic problem was that every department had their own modeling to do what they were supposed to do, airplanes or the hub design or the people. And they sent it to the file to the next one in the line, and the next department would spend another week to massage and to convert that file into so it could fit into their model. So I thought, well, you know, I know a little bit in the IT area, so I went to a fellow in the data administration, and he said, yeah, we can come up with a file which can go through all the modeling. Anyway, so we came up with a solution which addressed all the 4 objections the chairman had. So my boss presented to his boss, he presented to the chairman, he liked the process. So I don't know, so my boss had me and 2 other directors, director of planning for designing all the hubs. So he left the company. So my boss said to them, would you mind going over there acting until I had someone? So I was there 2 weeks. I went back to Ken. I said, Ken, you know me. If I go somewhere, I take charge and I'm going to make changes. And so these people need to know that I'm here for good, not here for 6 weeks or 8 weeks. So that position had to be approved by the chairman because it worked with him. So that position was part of a group called Long Range Planning Committee, and 8 of us would meet with the chairman. I did that from 89 to 99, every third Tuesday for 4 hours, and we would talk about next 3-5 years out, you know, international, FedEx, Dubai, Paris, what we need to do, what kind of airplane. So so he knew, you know, what work I had done before. He said, I have no problem if you want to move without posting the job, Madan in the job. So here moved from a support managing director. What was the skill I brought to the table? I did not know anything about that process of strategic planning there, but interpersonal skill. So what we are looking at is when we get a project, and more importantly, you know, we don't have to know all the gory technical detail. People know that. And if we can just facilitate and you know, so and the key word was educate me. I don't know, guys, help me out. And once you get the process, put it on the wall, the solution stares you in the face. Why are we doing it this way, guys? You know, what if we look at it? So who do bosses choose, promote, and like to have on their teams? What do bosses like? People you work for. Not a trick question, just whatever. What do you think? Who do bosses like to have on their team? Hard work, all right. How about you? Good ideas. How about you, man? Easier to get along with. Okay. Let me ask these young guys. You guys are just student or starting? You already working? Students. Okay, you get a break. You don't know the boss word yet. So once you get in there, yes, sir. What do the big bosses look for? Just think about, hey, you want to work for the president, for the
People who can execute.
Result performance. So let's just, you know, what we do, sometimes we made a mistake because somebody has the title of the president or chairman, and I happen to work with them and work now with those guys now. They are just like us. They have the same issues. So they just want somebody who will help them solve their problems. Just like if we are project manager, we want somebody to help solve whatever we are saying. That's what they want. My first job from promotion at RCA, Dale had a problem, you know, he wanted that system. And Madan came along and said, you know, what if we do 80-20 and build a smaller system in there? And of course, now RCA is out of business because the whole digital thing, that's a separate technology. Second, so JLB, Jim Barksdale, he was the chief operating officer. So Jim became president of Netscape and he sued Microsoft and he won. Then he was the founder, he was all the cell phone system. Anyway, to me, he's one of the best executive I had a chance to work with. So at that time, in 86 was my first promotion to managing director. They had to approve, only 50, 60 of them, small company. So you get your interview 1, 2, 3, and the 4th was with Jim. So I go to his office. And He said, Madan, I know you will do a good job. You did a good job as a manager, senior manager there. But people I'm looking on my team. FedEx is growing and we are international. People I'm looking on my team is who say, yes, we can. Because you technical guys, you can come up with 3 reasons why this thing won't work, why this project or this thing. So I don't want you to ignore the issues, whatever we are trying to do, but I want you to engage your team and come back to me and tell me, Mr. Bartel, this is what we need to do to fix this issue when we implement, this technology or whatever system or the new hub design. So they are looking for people, yes, we can. And I remember some politician also had that statement a few years ago. Third thing they're looking for, just like anybody else, reduce their stress. If you can reduce my stress, I want you on my team. So I would go to my boss and, before I got that memo thing with Ken, the reason I had good relationship with him, I would go every couple of weeks and I say, Ken, what is on your plate? What can I help you with? So we'll say, but then, look over my shoulder. I'm responding this email to the chairman, make sure, I got it right. So it is simple things and to make them look good. The chemistry you develop, that's become more important for them, than the technical skill. So projects provide prime opportunity for building that reputation as a creative thinker. Because projects, whatever there was a problem or there was an issue or taking it to the next level, and this is just a picture of, this early day. The biggest award at FedEx is called 5-Star Award, the plaque in the middle, which, you get every year. We had officer directors meeting, and that is the chairman, Fred Smith, that just, So as I said, I, speak all over the world. So FedEx Delivers came out in India, and I gave publisher 2 weeks, and so he set up like 10 talks in 2 weeks in Bangalore, Chennai, Mumbai, and some of the top companies, Infosys, Wipro, companies there. So I'm flying back to the US, from Mumbai to Atlanta, and next to me the gentleman sitting, Jayant Pandharkar. And so he said, what were you doing in India? I said, well, the book came out and I enjoy speaking. And so I spoke at Wipro. And he said, Tata Consulting, who is #1 IT company in India. So why don't you come to Tata PCS? I said, well, whatever the publishers PR company set up, I just gave them time. He said, well, next time when you come to India, give us some time. So I said, well, on one condition, I'm writing another book. So if you can get me an hour with your CEO, I will give you 4 hours of my time. So 6 weeks later, I get an email. He said, he's going to be in New York and he's got an hour for you. And it so happens I was speaking at Dartmouth in their executive MBA program, and I was flying. My son lives in New York. So I was going to visit with him. So anyway, I saw Ram. So I asked him one question. I said, Ram, walk me through, your career. What got you to where you are? He's the CEO. And under his leadership, TCS went from 1 billion to 10 billion. So he said, where he went to school in India. In fact, we kind of went to the same university in New Delhi area. So then he came to UCLA, did a master's in computer science, went back to Mumbai with TCS as a computer analyst and working as a project manager. So he said one day, the president, Mr. Kohli, called him in his office and said, Ram, I want you to go to New York. This is early 90s. There are no IT outsourcing from India, in the US or anywhere. So he said, Mr. Kohli, what am I going to do? He said, Ram, you go. You will figure it out because I like the way you think. She asked me, I came with my wife and I'm in New York and I'm just, every day I'm trying to call on some company and try to educate them, we are the IT company. We can do. So he said after, 4 weeks, one small bank gave me a back office. He said, well, you can do, maybe you can look into doing this process. So, so we got that, I went back and then, there's this story. It became in one project they got GCS. So the key point is there is, I like the way you think. So that's the reputation you want to develop. What they're looking for is, certainly the project get done, but they're looking for is, he's always thinking at the next level. Next level means, what are the issues facing your boss or boss's boss? Because, I recently finished working with the president of the university, and he had moved into job, and so he called me and we would have breakfast. And I said, if you were to summarize for me leadership, how would you summarize it? He says, well, I would need time. He said, no, whether you are managing IBM or FedEx or University of Dallas or Memphis, the board of trustees or board of directors only ask you one question. Every year they only ask only one question.
Okay.
Are you taking the company to the next level of growth and excellence, period? I mean, there can be other metrics, stock price or profitability or growth or market share or number of student enrollment in university. But all they're looking for is, are you taking to the next level of growth? If we want to grow, because the companies are not growing, they are going to go out of business. So doesn't matter how smart the president or your boss's boss is, only 24 hours in the day. So they need people, flunkies like Madan, to help them. For the company to grow, the IT has to grow to the next level. I was talking to Erica, she said we are trying to take our systems to the cloud level there. If it's marketing, it has to go to the next level, whatever. Every department, engineering and there, combined, that's when the company goes to the next level. So, if a poll was done of CEOs around the world, and the number one competence, what they're looking for is creativity, that who can think out of the box. So I only asked one question, before I accept. I was years ago speaking at Google, at Sony, and there. So I asked the president, 30 minutes. So I don't want to come and just talk about FedEx and impress you with my knowledge of. I want to make it worthwhile for the people who are sitting in the audience for their time and your team. I'll ask them one question: what keeps you awake at night? That's it. And the answer is the same. Whether I'm in Mumbai or Singapore or Mountain View or Google or which, the answer is the same. Madan, we have to change. We can't keep doing the business we are doing. The global economy, the competition, that's what keeps them awake. Because they want to grow and they know that for them to grow, we have to change as a company. Our processes, our product, whatever, we have to change. So that's what they're looking for. So I think I got till 9:30. So the next few minutes I'm going to spend on. So Madan, you talked about all this wonderful word. Everybody talks about innovation. It's a buzzword. Boss says, well, we need to come up with some creative ideas. We are sitting in a conference room and kind of, what does it mean? We need to be creative now. No. We don't have to make it a point to be creative. So that's what my second book was, that how do you make it a reality at the floor level or in your career. And so creativity is just connecting dots the way they have not been connected before. So typically what we do as technical people, engineers and IT and others, when a problem comes, we immediately go into how to move. 1, 2, 3 steps, right? This is what we're going to do. We had a panel board in every office at FedEx. and we would jump on the Panabo. This is, in fact, they used to call me Professor Madan. So the creativity is before you jump into how to, these two, if you only remember one thing out of this conversation, is two words, what if? What if we look at it this way, guys? What if, Dale, we only build the system for 20% of the selection? What if we get these purchasing people giving the Airway vendors, the forecast for the next 6 months, but don't print the aircraft? What if we, change our data administration, how we process massage the file? So it is just asking what if before we jump into how to. So making connections. So how many of you know how Netflix came about? So Netflix, Reed Hastings rented a Apollo 13 VHS tape, and he goes to return it. And the young lady behind the counter, Blockbuster, says, Mr. Hastings, you are 6 weeks late, and there is a $40 late fee. He's standing there, and he said, it is my fault. I misplaced the cassette, and I finally found it. I'm returning it. And what I'm going to tell my wife when I get home that I paid $40 for his stupid late fee. So anyway, he pays the fee. He's driving home, and that's bothering him. The tension. And he said, what if there was a video rental service like a health club? You pay one fee a month, whether you go to a health club every day or every week or twice a week. So that was the genesis of Netflix. He just took his knowledge of health club fees and the video rental. Certainly, he has to keep changing with streaming and others. Second example I have is General Mills and NASCAR. So in General Mills, they make these potatoes, different kind of potatoes, scalloped and au gratin and other. So every time you change the potato, you have to change the assembly line, the machinery. You have to stop and clean and change some gears in there. And it used to take some time up to 12 hours. And these are $1 million worth of machinery, so they are not being used. So one of the managers said, I was at the NASCAR, car running around the track, and they have this pit stop in Indianapolis when I was 500. Same thing, you have a pit stop, and within seconds they will change the whole tires, put the fuel in, and boom, the driver is back on the racetrack. So he said, why don't we go take a look at it, how these guys do it? So his team went over there at NASCAR, and they came back and changed their thinking. They could not think something from 12 hours to like into minutes. That created certainly a lot of free time in production. I can talk. That's the barcode. Just last example. The barcode. So in 1950s, at this graduate school, this dean goes and says, I was at the grocery store, and you check out, and the checkout cashier takes one can and looks at the code, keys it, and there got to be a better way. And so Woodland, this guy who was there, heard it. So he's sitting on South Beach in Miami vacationing, lounging on the chair, and he is sitting there and accidentally put his fingers into the sand. And he looked down. He said, aha, when I was in Cub Scout, we were talking about this Morse code, SOS. And so what if, just like the dots and dashes in there, in that code, what if we put intelligence in these 4 lines? That is the genesis of barcode. So the point I'm making is, it is, and I can give you stories about the iPod, and there, just quickly, iPod came about. This fellow was a DJ in Michigan, And he got tired of lugging all these CDs in his car when he went to DJ gigs. He said, got to be a better way. So he was playing in his garage, coming up with a big hard drive. Then he went to California and said, somebody give me money. Everybody said no. Steve Jobs said, okay. So then the manager of engineering was visiting Toshiba in Japan at Apple. And he came back and he said, I think it was Sony or some company who was doing some work for Apple. He said, the manager there showed me this little, 3-inch drive and they don't know what to do with it. And he mentioned to him. He said, maybe we can use that. And then the marketing guy said, what if you do the toggle wheel? The point I'm making is, so when you look at behind every invention, it is just simple ideas put together and connecting. So ideas, so I started out saying that the chairman and all these guys are being held responsible for growth. And it is ideas that drive business growth. That, what if we introduce this project, or what if we change this, or what if we do that, or, our IT system, or customer experience. So creativity is connecting dots over there, not being, and we don't have to force our mind. The nature designed our mind to think. We are thinking all the time. Linda is thinking, after this session is over, I need to go and do this, and after that, I need to do that. Then when I get home, I need to do this for the kids or whatever. So mind is thinking 4 things. That's what we do all the time. We are thinking. So if we can create these 4 conditions I'm going to share with you, you will generate creative ideas. You don't have to force. I didn't have to sit and say, today I'm going to be creative. So the number 1 condition is more dots, more knowledge I have, more connections the mind can make. So when we are given a problem, these neurons run around, make some connections, say, this is what we can do. If you are in the IT system, you have your IT knowledge, and there you tell the boss, this is what we can do. If you are in construction or project management or marketing, whatever field you are in, so more dots you have, more connections you can make. So one thing, if you notice all the example I gave you, the dots were not necessarily all from their field. In fact, the creativity comes by connecting dots from different fields. Ford Motor Company took off when Henry Ford was at the Chicago railway station and he saw the stockyard, how the animals were being processed. He said, what if, we put a track assembly line and put our car instead of, people going and putting wheels in there, the car moves in there. That was a genesis. You just saw something. You can look at it. That's what I do. You can look at example. Bill Gates and Paul Allen, they just noticed that chips are getting cheap and computers are becoming. So they said, software is going to be the key in getting the expansion into the whole computing field. So, we can. So, more dots you have. So my suggestion is when I talk to MBA students is, first is that learn the total process of how your company makes money, provides whatever service it does. Typically, we tend to stay and we drill down on the department we are in. I'm in engineering, I'm in IT, I'm in this one, and we do. And that's what you're going to do rest of the day, learn about the project management. But if you can say, how do we make money? How do we receive the order? What happens? How the system process? How do we deliver? What is the customer experience when he gets it? What happens when the problem? So now when you look at an issue, now you're able to think like the big boss is, because the big boss, when I present to the chairman, he doesn't care about the gory detail. He just wants to know, Madan, whatever you are telling me that we need to spend $100 million to grow the Memphis up, How is it going to help support the business growth or improve the customer service or the automation I was proposing? So then you can talk their language. So imagination is more important than knowledge, Einstein, because if we typically jump into the analytical mode, we just start to think 1, 2, 3. But if we start saying what if, the right side of our brain. So last 1 month I've been helping as a volunteer the Collierville school system, developing their strategic plan. And my main conversation with the superintendent is that certainly STEM is the word, we have to program, but make sure the students are getting, music or all the extracurricular activities, the right side of their brain. So they are, when they go out in the world of work, that's what they are looking for is creative thinking. Third thing is nominal stress. So just as I gave you all the example of the barcode, so there has to be a stress, nominal. So violin, it plays nice music because there is a little tension. If it is too tight, what happens? It snaps. And if there is no tension in the string, there is no music. So whether it was Woodland or Hastings or Gates or Jobs, they had this, we are here, we could be there. There is a little problem. So Fred would say, Madan, I had 100 engineers working for me, and we designed all the airports around the world, all the hubs, the Alliance Fort Worth hub. And he would say, we are damaging 1 out of 1,000 packages today in our processing. And then our goal for next is 1 out of 10,000. That's all he has to say. We'll figure it out as engineers, what we need to do in our system. So doesn't matter what your company is doing today. Whatever, it can always be better. The reason it can be better is because of the technology is changing. I mean, you guys know more about AI and all the other things. And as I mentioned to you, I mean, I don't know if it's the word challenge, but I several times went up against the chairman about his assumption. He designed the processes when the company was starting to convince him that, Fred, now we can handle this because we got technology, we can do automation, sorting or whatever there. So last thing is you must have time to explore what if. So one of the things I talk about when I talk to the senior management teams is have meetings with no agenda. No agenda. Only agenda is what could we be doing differently to serve our customers better. I was talking to the president of University of Pennsylvania, and she said, Madan, I have a meeting with all my staff. I mean, University of Pennsylvania is one of the top 5 schools in the country. But she's continually asking, right, what could we be doing differently to improve whatever student experience in there? And then there is no answer. You don't have to come up with a solution. So if you are a manager of an 8 people, 10 people team, just schedule once a quarter or something, just a what if session. Just pick out a topic. What could we do differently to improve our response time? What could we do differently to improve our cycle time? And the other thing is, that first picture dots, all the dots don't have to be in your head. When we start talking and Linda comes up with an idea, you come up with an idea, then we can take those 3 and build up on that. And that was the key to my promotion. I didn't know anything about the long range planning process, but once I looked at it, I could ask questions because I wasn't part of that thing. I was outside. And it was a simple question and simple, solution that it together. So explore what if before locking into how. Yes, there was a time I have to come up with a solution. My first job, if a belt is down and there is a spare part, I have to make sure the belt is running in there. But if I'm planning 5 years out, what FedEx would look like in China or India, I can prop my feet up and say, what if guys look at it this way? So what that says is, all of us are busy. We don't have time. The demand, on the job and other. So the key is, I don't know if you heard this. The key is your earning capacity is determined by your learning capacity. How many dots you can get in your head. That's going to determine what you're going to earn in the 5 years or 3 years. The word is growth mindset. She's a professor at Stanford. She wrote this book. I'm a refuge of growth mindset versus fixed mindset. I know everything. What can you tell me? But growth mindset said, I can always know there's something. So once you move into management, we need 3 skill sets: technical, managerial, and leadership. And that's, in fact, the book during COVID I was working on. I have a slide, last slide. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is, we've got about 12 minutes left. I'm going to take 5 minutes and left 7 minutes, for your questions over there. I always have more slides. So innovation, that word, taking the mystery out of it, is just 3 steps. It is generation, is asking what if, and any idea impacts 5 other departments, they need their acceptance, and then implementation. The idea that improve company's customer value proposition. That's a marketing term. What that means is that when you go to Best Buy to buy a TV, you walk in and you have 3 things in mind. I want to buy a TV, best price, best quality, maybe some brand name, what kind of service they provide, if something happens, return policy. So if you have certain values in your mind, so same thing, every company is selling a value proposition. FedEx is saying absolutely positively overnight, they're going to offer you give us the package. And FedEx really took off in 82 when Fred said to us, guys, we are not in the transportation business. Even though we have airplanes and we have trucks and we are in the peace of mind business. Why would somebody pay us $25 to ship a package versus $5 to post office? Because the guy wants to go to bed at night saying, it's a critical part, critical letter, whatever. I give it to FedEx and people get it in the morning. That's when we came up, how do we provide the tracker? FedEx came up, there were no tracking anywhere. Now we could do on our cell phone. Anyway, so it is a people process. Innovation is not technology. People come up with the idea. It is people who develop those ideas, people who implement those ideas. So that's where the leadership comes in. If you want to be an innovation leader, then this is the people skill. Okay, we have a few more minutes. So I got a call 7 or 8 years ago. The largest bank in Tennessee, the CFO was being groomed to be the president, so they gave her IT also, and we were friends. So she called. He said, but then these IT guys do, what I tell them to do, but now in financial services, IT is not just a support function. It is key part of the value proposition, what we offer to the customer. So can you help, the team in their innovative thinking? I said, let's just say, Barbara, I said, I don't have anything off the shelf, so I'll talk to your guys. If I can add value, So I talked to these 4 CIO. They had a mortgage division in Dallas. They had a insurance company in Nashville, and anyway. They came and I asked them, guys, this is what your boss is saying. He said, but we got these ideas, but these people just won't understand in operations. It will save so much money. So what I found is that they knew their project and their technology, but they did not have any sort of people skill to sell their idea. So if you're selling it to operations or whatever, they have different perspective than you do. So don't expect them to jump on your idea right away and say, okay, let's implement. No. The idea is clear in your mind. You're working 6 months. but they are not sure if it's going to work on the floor. Listen to understand. So what they're looking for is that you understand their concern before you put it into the slide. So I'm going to finish this. Speak their language, expand ownership. I'm going to put the last one. So this is the book I'm working on, Technical Professional Innovation Leader, how to write. So I just started a couple of weeks ago, one page using LinkedIn, and I think you'll find useful. So I'm going to request, if you're on LinkedIn, to subscribe and share that. So we got 5 minutes. Any thoughts or questions you have? What I've been sharing? Any? Yes, sir.
System design thinking. System design thinking. Part of what you were involved in then.
Would you say?
Yeah.
Open-ended questioning, systems design type thing.
Yeah. I mean, so part of I also had a group who manages on the control room in the Memphis hub. This is like a control room you will see at an airport or something. And so if time to time look at the whole process, and back of your mind say it can be better. That will give you some creative tension that we are here, we could be there, guys, whatever. And then just explore. That we don't know what, but what it. Somebody.
Yeah, back here. So it sounds like you're pushing the role of project management closer to process improvement. So for you, how did you go about becoming a subject matter expert in the area of process improvement?
Well, I'm going to try at it. My experience was that if we can look at, in fact, I was talking to the CIO at FedEx, Rob Carter. Years ago, I was invited to speak at the IIM Bangalore, and it was talk to the CIO. So I asked him, he said, typically, what do we do in IT, where he's got like 5,000 people at FedEx? We drill down. But customer doesn't care that, if the process goes across 5 divisions. So my experience was that process, looking at not just the process which you are responsible for, but going before and after to the total process. So once you look at it, then you can put in perspective, what happens, because the management is interested in the end product to the customer. And I don't know if I'm answering your question or not. I mean, it is taking process more and then just, inviting some people. I mean, I learned things about my area, inviting everybody who's remotely connected to the process. The vendor, I gave the example of the Airway Bill. I'm inviting everybody who is engaged in that process, to question. Yes, sir.
Well, thank you for an excellent talk, great content. I would like to ask you, how do you see, looking at your crystal ball, how do you see artificial intelligence or augmented intelligence making an impact on this whole process?
I think we'll have coffee, you can educate me. All I know is what I read, that it is going to, my son works on Wall Street, and I talk to him time to time, and he just got back from MIT. He took his team for a couple of days, and the topic, he said, Dad, it's going to change everything. How not just the middle management and how you think about. I just used a couple of times as I was writing the book ChatGPT, and I asked the question, how do you gain acceptance of your idea? It was scary. It came up with sort of similar thing, what I, from my experience. So I know probably less than what you do, since you're in the field. I read more about the human side and more on the. Well, Jim is ready to walk me
So
off the
I want to
stage.
show, I'm back up to the prior question about the process mapping and all the rest.
Yeah,
So
right.
did you become an expert in business process management and start drawing all these processes?
Well, I give you my age. When I took this course in Masters in Industrial Engineering, we used to talk about CPIM and PERT. Okay, that's the critical path project management. So yeah, we did use some of those, but you know, I mean, what I found useful was just going looking at the process total and putting it on the wall and staring at it. It just stayed with the question, stayed you there. Why is it taking 3 weeks time? And then you come up with, this is what we have to do. And then other people who know the technology. So it was more so looking at the process in concert with everybody who is the stakeholder.
I'm just flashing back to the 80s now, full quality.
Yep.
Customers number one.
Exactly.
We have to map our process
Yeah.
from beginning to end, each person's process.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Very inspiring talk.